Are you a high-performing parent, entrepreneur, or high achiever in pursuit of excellence? Welcome to The Nexus Podcast, a podcast custom tailored for families like ours, driven, affluent, and eager to lead extraordinary lives. From rockstar stay-at-home moms to high-producing CEOs, we choose to model success for everyone we are surrounded by. We prioritize health over sickness, embrace a vitalistic lifestyle, and seek to tap into the limitless potential that God has bestowed upon us. I'm Dr. Daniel Kimbley, your host, and on this podcast, we'll uncover the secrets to living a fulfilling and abundant life, where you and your loved ones can thrive physically, mentally, and spiritually. Together, we'll forge a path to greatness and unleash your God-given capabilities. Get ready to say yes to a life of true prosperity and well-being. This is The Nexus Podcast. Hey, what's up, fam? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. And I want to talk about your potential on this week's episode. And when I say potential, what I really have this thought of is something that came to me in chiropractic school, something that I heard a mentor, Chuck Ribley, talk about, and I couldn't help but be inspired to share it with you today because I think it's one of the most important principles and things to understand, something that has guided my life for the last 15 years plus. And that principle is this, is that your body is self-healing, self-regulating, and self-maintaining, which is a vitalistic principle. So that principle is called vitalism, and you've heard me talk about this on the podcast before, but what you haven't heard me talk about before is this idea of seeds. And one of my mentors in chiropractic school and somebody who I look up to, he would always carry around this pocket full of corn kernels or this pocket full of seeds, and he always asks a question. He's like, what's the potential of one kernel of corn? And like, it sounds so silly, right? That like somebody would carry around corn kernels in their pocket, or somebody would carry around seeds in their pocket. And even the Bible, it talks about faith the size of a mustard seed. But what's so interesting about mustard is, like, in California where we live, mustard is actually something that once it is planted, it will start to take over the native plants because it grows and it proliferates so quickly and so easily. And this idea of seeds comes to mind because I think we all have this potential within us. So when we think about a corn kernel or a seed, like a strawberry seed would be a great example of this, is if you've ever been strawberry picking, you know there's this overabundance. Like, it's more strawberries than you could ever possibly eat. Coco, Heather, and I were at the apple orchard a few weekends ago. There's more apples that grow from these trees than you could ever possibly eat. And they all started with a single solitary seed. And I would argue that if a seed can produce fruit in an overabundance and more than we could ever possibly consume on our own, my question would be, what is possible for you inside of your life? What is your potential? Because we're talking about a seed with a certain set of genetic encoding that when it gets planted in the ground and it gets a little bit of water, can grow these fruits that keep us alive. But think about yourself and your brain and your nervous system and your lungs and your blood and your heart and your kidneys and your liver and your digestive system and all the different types of cells and all the different type of tissues that we have inside of our body that allow us to be alive. And not just be alive, but like live a life worth living. There is so much potential inside of each and every one of us. I would argue there is so much more potential inside of us than there is inside of one of those teeny tiny seeds. But it's all, like, even in the tiny seed, before it's a fruit or before it's a corn stalk that has multiple other cobs of corn on it, like, the potential's already in that one single solitary seed. And I would have you consider that you are a seed as well. And what you sow and what you plant and what you express is a direct expression of how you address your body and how you take care of it through every single phase of life, starting from the first breath, even before development. If you have kids of your own, like, this is something that I get so passionate about. So when I see, and the reason I bring this up is really because I've seen lots of families this week and last week, and they're kind of looking for answers. And it's really interesting when I sit down with mom or I sit down with dad and they're like, I can't believe I've never heard this before. And it doesn't even have to be families. I sat with a guy yesterday, single guy yesterday, and he's like, dude, this is an answered prayer. Like, where has this been? He's not even from here. He's from Nashville, and he came to see us. And like, it's so crazy that people just haven't heard the story and been told that you are enough. You are a seed of expression of life, and we were designed to be healthy. We were designed to thrive. We were designed to live a life full of purpose and passion and just lots and lots of fruit. But the problem is that our nervous system cannot do it in a stressed out state. So the way I would think about this is like, if we are a seed and we get planted into a garden, like our fruit is going to grow and grow and grow, but alongside it, weeds are going to grow as well. Like it's just inevitable, especially in an organic garden. And what we have to do is we have to pluck the weeds in order for the seeds to bear more fruit. And so inside of our lives, I think that one of the things that we should be looking for is remembering that yes, we have the potential as one of those seeds, and we are seeds ourselves, and we shine light into the world, and we provide fruit to the people around us through the things that we do, through our passions, through our purpose, through our creativity, through our thought processes, through the way that we get to show up on a regular basis. But there's another level of this, and it's that we have to actively pluck the weeds. Because if we don't pluck the weeds, then what's going to happen is eventually the weeds will overtake the garden, because they're way easier to grow and proliferate, kind of like I talked with the mustard seed. And so you have the potential of a seed that can bear more fruit and more abundance than you could ever possibly imagine right now. Like you already have that potential inside of you. And I would argue that if God could do it with a little teeny tiny seed, He has done a magnificent thing with our brain and with our nervous system. And the way that we address and the way that we allow our brain and nervous system to thrive, in my opinion, is through having a healthy functioning nervous system, which can only come from properly moving joints of the spine and can only come arguably through brain-based chiropractic care. I know there are people who are going to argue that like, hey, I'm functioning well, I don't need a chiropractor. I know that I hear lots of people say that. But the reality is like I've had those same people who have said those things to me, like I'm so glad I never needed to see a chiropractor, start coming to see us, and their whole life is radically transformed. And the point of this is not about chiropractic care. I know what allows people to express their 100%. I've seen people open up and awaken to their passion and their purpose inside of life, and there's a very specific physiological process that happens when we do that with people. It can be explained through neurology, it can be explained through neuroscience, it can be explained through chemistry on some level or biochemistry on some level. But the reality is like the idea that I want to share with you is this, is that you have an insane amount of potential already within you. It's been there since before you took your first breath of life, and it will be there until you take your last breath. And I would just encourage you to express it today. Like, what are you doing to pluck the weeds inside of your life? What are you doing to get rid of the negativity and create more positivity and create a life and like express all of what we have to offer to the world? Because each of us has something unique and special. And I would argue that just like one single fruit, an apple seed or a strawberry seed or the corn kernel that I talked about, each of those things can produce such an abundance of fruit inside of our lives, inside of their own lives. We have to be at least as powerful as that, if not much, much more. We can understand an apple seed. We can understand a corn kernel. We can't even fathom more than about 10% of what is actually possible with our own human brains and the physiology within our bodies. Doctors try to pretend that we have it all figured out. We have very, very little figured out. And so my friends, my encouragement for you is this. You have a potential within you that is untapped. You have a potential within you that God gave you. There is a purpose inside of your life that is bigger than where you are at currently. And when you do the right things and make the right decisions and allow that seed to grow fruit and plant it in the right environment and ensure that you're plucking the weeds, maybe I'll do another episode on plucking the weeds, but ensure that you're plucking the weeds to allow that thing to express itself at 100%. And that thing is your life. And we talk about in our office, we talk about more presence, more productivity, and more profit. My friends, I love you and I appreciate you. I will come at you again next week. Express that potential, have your nervous system checked, get adjusted. It's the most important thing that I know of. I love you. I appreciate you. Peace.